think better when I'm out here. I think I'm actually different than when I'm in the house. And so I wanted to experiment and see if thinking differently out here is truly something valuable. Now, before we get into it, this is really a dissertation on the importance of free speech and what that really means. And I like to break things down very simply, because that's just simplicity allows for true understanding and true discourse and communication, as opposed to, confounding someone or being unnecessarily complicated. So it starts with thinking. The thoughts in our hearts and our minds, both mystical and spiritual and practical and tactical and all those things, that swirling ball that we would call consciousness or even unconsciousness. That is the true sacred part of humanity. That part of us that knows that there's something else, there's something more even to us that we may or may not be able to explain, and it pops out in different directions. But this amorphous, even though I'm using a spherical context, this amorphous energy of life that we all have, I will call that thought. Even though it's more than thought, it's often feeling first or thought first, but I think you know where I'm going with this. So first there's thought. And then thought gets conveyed into words. And words are simply a reflection of some type of thought at some point in time, and is never a fully accurate description of the thought that originated the word. And I know that people know this, but it just for clarity's sake, it's thought, then it's words, and then it's action, either personal or your words impacting someone else to do something differently that they may not have done otherwise. And this isn't rhetoric. This isn't like a sales dialogue. This is talking about the importance of thought, words, and expressing those words in a way that is beneficial. And I'm not talking about only beneficial communication. I'm talking about just an understanding, my functional understanding of the importance of being able to say what you mean and being able to mean what you say for the most part. And that is a high standard, because as humans, we often say things that we don't mean, or mean in the moment but don't mean later. And it has to be part of a discourse, an ongoing communication. Otherwise, the amorphous energy of thought gets dissipated into words out of context, from the point they were spoken to the point they get repeated to the point they change someone's heart or life in a way that was never originally intended. And I know, again, this is not like earth-shattering revelations, but I think it's just important for me to say it and for someone else to hear it as a way of encouragement that, at least for my sake, there's some other, quote, sane person who believes in these basic concepts. And, so often it's about, how would you say this? It's like my gift to someone who listens to this. This is my gift. This is saying that at this point in time, January 22nd, 2023 in Arizona, that I felt this way. And I think that someone even clicking on this at some point in the future will say, oh, here was a person of importance, not because they were self-important or that they did something important, but simply that they said or declared the thought, word, action principle. Because for throughout time, throughout recorded history, this is the primary beneficial communication from generation to generation, that you should be able to think what you want to think and say what you want to say and pretty much do what you want to do, unless of course it transgresses someone else's right to do the same. And in this current environment, that thought pattern is not dominant, where people are self-editing and in other words, curbing thought, which is in essence a crime against oneself and a crime against people who might hear the words that you would say and therefore be encouraged themselves to speak the words that they would say. And that is the whole point of this little essay, is for me to want to communicate this for my own benefit, and to know that I have recorded it for someone else's benefit somewhere down the road, wherever. And that, I could provide entertainment by telling jokes or showing video of this wonderful area we're in, which is wonderful, by the way. But I'm starting here with the thought, and the words that are tumbling out of my mouth in somewhat, I'm not going to self-deprecate. These are good words, and I'm saying them in good order. And I have not rehearsed this, out loud at least. And I want to say that is it, but that's not it. That's pretty much all. If I were to give a lesson to my kids about what life is about, I would say that it's about discovering your thoughts that are yours, that you should communicate, and how communicating that affects other people beneficially, even if they get angered or offended or whatever. And I hope people know, just by my demeanor here, it doesn't mean acting like a fool. We've all done that, and we've all done it purposely, in fact. And but if the discussion continues, then the foolishness often washes out, and even generationally, a teenager will say something stupid, and we've all been there. We've all done that. I haven't recorded too much of that, fortunately. But that washes out, and then we understand that this was a foolish moment. This wasn't a foolish person. And, well, anyway, I think it's very important to just allow one's thoughts to be sacred to oneself, and when spoken or written or videotaped, or not videotaped, this is a video chip, I guess, that it should be acknowledged as sacred, even though it doesn't receive fanfare or acknowledgement or anything like that. It is as if a foundation of your life. You could set it down like a foundational rock, like a cornerstone, and say that I am what I think, and not purely what I think, but that energy, that emotional thought energy, mystical combination, where there's no beginning and end necessarily. It simply is. And the communication therewith is really saying, it's really opening doors to certain glimpses of your essential being. And it is so vital for us as humans to share those pure glimpses with each other, because otherwise there's really no meaning to things other than the temporal pleasures, taking in good food, seeing good sights, having good times, or making a lot of money, or whatever it is. But unless we know or begin to know the genuine self of another person, then there's not much there. And I think that we're seeing some of that, the fraying of some of our society, because that there's been so much hype about true expression, and so much, echo chamber discussions about this, and not even discussions, just shrieking. I mean, how can you express a genuine part of yourself in a genuine way when someone is losing their mind, either on video or next to you on their phone, or freaking out on some forum online? And this stifling of free speech is essentially the stifling of genuine humanity, and that is the essential crime of our current culture. That is not good, because we need to be as genuine as possible so that we can have meaningful moments, fleeting as they are, but so valuable. Like the gold of someone's soul needs to be exposed, shared, I should say, exposed, and therefore encouraging you to share some of the gold of your soul. And it's not to say that we're all kumbaya initially, but there's got to be some discussion about the essential valueness of my neighbor, of the person next to me, even if they're wrapped up in all the anger and strife of the superficial communications that we, quote, share all the time. And anyway, I hope I feel like this is a message in the bottle. I'm going to post this on YouTube, and it's going to go nowhere, I'm pretty sure. But I feel good saying these words because this is something I believe, and this is foundational to me. And if I were to write a Bible according to Dan, or the Gospel according to Dan, this would be the first chapter. And again, it's not revolutionary, but it is revolutionary if you or I practice it, or not even practice it, start believing it first, and then the words will come. And so it gets into the thought of how to practice this in a way that is positive, as opposed to, someone just popping off about whatever they want to say at whatever moment, and all of us have to, pretend that this is, valued communication. And really, there's no pat answer to that. If someone pops off in your presence, in my mind, I go, okay, well, this is maybe an immature person, but are they really trying? Are they trying to show something genuine? Are they trying to convince me of something? Should I let them go? Let them off gas? Should I counter them in a helpful way? Should I counter them because they're polluting the communal discourse? These are the things that happen face to face, and in my career it was always face to face communication, and I think I have a different tack on it, that now because the predominant communication tableau is electronic and the feedback mechanism is impersonal and corrupted and automated, in fact probably not even automated, it's likely just corrupted entirely. It's not real, even though it might come from human origin. And that's brainwashing, that's mind pollution, and it needs to be dumped out. But how do you express that to a young person who's been weaned on this for since they started developing the sense of selves? I don't have the answer. I think it takes a great deal of patience and understanding and guidance. And the person listening, or the person with whom you're having this, not even discourse, but this, this learning environment where you're trying to bring them to a greater part of themselves, but they're just like lost. How do you reach out to them in a way that is moving them forward? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I am not here to talk about, the 12-step program or what. I do not, because I do not have that. But I think that simply expounding on this and saying this is a start, because this is just me. It's like I'm sending like I'm a tuning fork. I'm sending out I'm tone deaf. I'm sending out middle C to everyone. This is middle C, people. And hopefully it will resonate with someone, but hopefully it resonates in a beneficial way, and maybe starts a discussion somewhere down the road that studying and working and doing all this and being an American or being a communist or whatever, it all starts with the freedom of thought. The freedom of thought, the expression of self as genuine self, not some foolish fantasy. Therefore, triggering actions that help us all become better people. And I think it's crucial as an American. I've been overseas, and I know that if we don't have a cultural understanding of freedom and a culture that fosters a growth of the thought of the importance of freedom, that the lifeboat of America is going to sink, and that's bad. And I'm not saying that in a panicky conspiratorial way, but as giving the torch from one generation to the next, the torch is the freedom of thought, the freedom of words, and the reverence for that. Otherwise, all the other things in the Constitution fall away. All the other things we hold dear as Americans fall away. And it's not political. It's the fact that the people who wrote those documents knew what it meant to be a better human. And they codified it in words, but they had the thoughts first. And so my point is, you must have the thought, even if the thought must be in your heart, and it must be like a flame that's fed and kindled over time, and it must be shared, much like a torch. Like, I'm sharing the flame of freedom with you, and I call it this. It's crucial, and it's exciting, and it's invigorating, and it cuts through a lot of bullshit. Because, you know, in my training, you know, we talked about rhetoric, and you know, I trained as a writer and a journalist, and a certain way to put things and all this stuff. But now all of that doesn't matter, because in the old days you would say things in a certain way to get a certain reaction, because your time of attention was so little. You had to look at a newspaper article or an ad, and yes, attention, there is a how do you say it, competition for attention. But now the first principle should be genuine communication, and that is the first thing that's corrupted, because the people in our lives who know the importance of this, the people who are first to deny it, the ones who are true expressives of the freedom of thought and expression, are the ones who, well, like the middle C, this will reverberate with them, and they will in turn share that with others. You know, these people who shout down people online are, well, they are the enemy of free thought, and therefore the enemy of freedom, even though they are practicing under the auspices of freedom of speech. But it is not authentic speech if it leads to the closing of words, the closing of minds, which therefore yields a closing of freedom-based actions. And that's bad. So there you go. Am I advocating for to shut everyone down? No. I'm advocating for people like us to talk to one another. And the real weird part is that the people I have in my life I could talk to about this, it really wouldn't, I'm not sure it would resonate with them. And it's very odd to me. And that's why I'm putting it down in this solo video format, because this seems to be, for someone who has been raised with an iPhone, there's something about lengthy face-to-face philosophical discussions. It doesn't occur very often, and so I'm recording it like this, and even though this is an altered form of communication, I think it's pretty clear I'm pointing toward real face-to-face genuine communications. That's because that's the goal that binds us together. You know, you see a good genuine part of someone else, and hopefully through words, but also through actions, and it bonds you to them in a way that you simply can't get online. And that's not to dismiss online's importance. It's simply to say that the real dope is the face-to-face dope, and it's something that needs to be expressed even in this impersonal format. But I think the closest we've come in the common popular culture is a stand-up comedy in the personal realm, even on the YouTube realm, which I watch the video, and I find that is the closest I get to feeling that I have talked to someone, is watching one of these stand-up comedians, and I think that's probably I'm sure other people feel the same way, but we should be able to talk to each other more frequently, and even out of our quote friend groups, and that's just, it's so vital. And it starts with freedom of thought, freedom of action, or freedom of thought, freedom of words, freedom of action. I hate tag words, but I believe in that. So I think I have spoken my mind for the time. I will let that be. This is Dan from his own Walden's Pond. Or no, was it Thoreau who was on Walden Pond? Anyway, was that a movie? That was on Golden Pond, on Walden Pond. Anyway, the coffee is draining from me. All right, well, I'm going to go back to this nature.